Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Kellen here with Droid Life. So I've got in my hand still the OnePlus 5. We've already done our first 10 things you should do video. We've unboxed it. We're working towards that full review, but of course we want to give you even more tips and tricks to hopefully help you get the most out of this device. So we're going to do that now in as quickly a fashion as possible. Here are 20 plus tips and tricks for your OnePlus 5. So first things first, I would suggest potentially looking into a case. This matte finish does get a little goopy with fingerprints. You can kind of see it there. I'm trying to keep it clean, but it's tough. So OnePlus does offer a whole lineup of their own cases, and since these are the official cases, they do fit like a glove. So there's carbon fiber, there's a couple of faux wood options, and then there's sandstone black as well. And sandstone black's one of those cool things that OnePlus has done that no one else has over the years. But anyway, these fit really nicely. We'll drop some links to these. We'll also see if we can find some decent deals on Amazon and drop links to those below as well. Again, these just fit really nicely and they give you that protection, and they also cover up the sort of oiliness you can get on the back. All right, so the first tip I always like to show people in terms of software is launching the camera in the fastest way possible. And on this phone, like many Android phones, it's a double tap there on power. So you just tap that twice and it fires up the camera. So from anywhere, you can just basically double tap that and there it launches into your camera. In terms of tips in the camera, you do have that zoom button right here. So it goes from 1x to 2x, and that's just always present right there, and that takes advantage of that dual lens system on the back. So just tap that. That's how that works. If you want to swipe over here from right to left, this gets you into the depth effect or the portrait mode, where it sort of tries to blur out the background of objects. You can also swipe over this way, and that gets you into your video camera. So those are the quickest ways to jump between those modes, but just in the center here is your default shooting mode. Up here, this slide out menu, you'll find shortcuts to other modes. So photo, video, portrait, pro mode, time lapse, slow motion, panorama, those are all accessed right there. There's also a settings button that gets you into some additional settings you may want to toggle off or on, like location data being stored with each photo. If you want a shutter sound on, quick capture, actually, if that's on and you double tap this power button, it actually snaps a photo. So rather than just loading your camera and letting you decide what you want to take a picture of, it actually tries to snap one initially. There is your grid, and then you actually have this option in here to add a OnePlus watermark to all of the photos you take. I don't know if you would want to do that or not, and you can add your name on there as well, but there is sort of that setting, something we haven't necessarily seen before, so kind of interesting. The next thing I would show you is this alert slider over here on the left side. So this is unique to OnePlus Android phones anyway. The iPhone has had an alert slider for some time. So if you are down all the way, this is sound volume on. If you go into the middle position, that is your do not disturb position. And then if you go all the way up, that is silent. So from each one of these, you can actually tap on a settings button and that will jump into that setting. So ring mode, you can also have it vibrate if you want, but if you go into do not disturb and tap settings, you get all of your do not disturb settings, which you should probably configure just so that they're precise in what you want to be disturbed by. And then silent mode, you can adjust this as well, including whether or not you want it to vibrate while it's in silent. So it's just a slider that works up and down, and it's really handy, and I wish other manufacturers considered doing it. So the next thing I would say is figure out your button setup down here. We talked about this in our first 10 things video, but this phone has a capacitive button here and here, or you can switch to on-screen buttons. I'm an on-screen guy, but if you want to jump in, you can go into settings, and you will look for buttons, and when we tap on buttons, that takes us in. So you can go on screen or not. So now I'm not on screen. So now I have these two little dots to the side. One is back, one is my app switcher. So that's how it comes default out of the box. If you don't want that experience again, you just do on-screen navigation, but you can do some other things in here as well. Like I have always enable home button. So even though I have this on-screen home button, I also have the fingerprint reader as a home button. And then you can also customize these buttons further. So my home button, if I long press on it, I have it launching Google Assistant. If I double tap on it, it actually puts my phone to sleep. So you can do that with not only the home button, but these two capacitive buttons down here as well, although you have to have those enabled. So anyway, your button experience is pretty customizable here on a OnePlus phone. I would look into doing that. Multi-window is what I would suggest you take a look at next. So multi-window has been on Android phones for a long, long time now. And so you get in there by launching up your app switcher, and then you grab an app. And if it's available to be used in multi-window, there is an option up there that says drag here. So you would just drag that here. Now you have a top window, and then down here you get to decide what you want to be in your bottom window. And you can adjust the size of these windows by sliding that up or down. If you want to just go straight into a full app again, you just swipe that all the way down. So you can do that obviously with YouTube and watch multiple things at once. I do not believe, oh yeah, Google Play actually does work in that, but you can load up your inbox, or I could also have Chrome down here. You guys know, understand multi-window. So I have Google Play up here, Chrome down here, and you just tap in between them, and that gets you in between all of that stuff. So multi-window. So I just mentioned Google Assistant. Make sure you have Google Assistant set up. It's one of your most powerful tools of any Android phone at this point. So to launch that for the first time, long press on home. That'll launch Google Assistant always. You can also say, okay, Google, and that will launch Google Assistant from anywhere. So make sure you set that up, and you'll walk through and you'll train your voice and all of that stuff. Obviously, again, Google Assistant can do things like show you the weather, call people, text people, bring up sports scores. There's a whole bunch of things you can do. What can you do? Is one of the first things you should ask it, or the tutorial will just, oops, let's try that again. What can you do? There you go. So you can have it play music, you can set reminders, set up alarms, calls, weather, messaging, sports, navigation, home controls, play games, have some other fun, set timers, get answers, find nutrition stuff. You get it. The list goes on and on and on. Google Assistant, we got tons of videos on this stuff, but definitely go ahead and set that up. All right, so the next thing I would say is make sure your notification quick settings are always customized. So this section up here, which is a 2-finger swipe or a double swipe down, gets you into this area. I have it set up so that my first 5 icons are the ones I use the most. So Wi-Fi, portrait mode, night mode, flashlight, and then my battery percentage. So if we swipe this down again and hit this little pencil button up here to allow you to customize this. So in order to do that, you just long press on something and you can drag things around into whatever order you want. You may also find some additional options down here. And if you want to use those, you just drag those up as well. And then they're added into the list. So it's just one of those things, especially those first 5, you're going to want those because they're the first 5 that show up when you're in single swipe down mode, which is right there. So just get those. If you're one of those people like me that constantly is toggling things off or on and tweaking this and that, definitely set those up the first 5 and then just add anything else you want in here as well. All right, so let's look at home screen settings. So I'm just using the OnePlus launcher at this time. You may want to use a third-party launcher, but their launcher is not bad. You can swipe over this way and get into their little software tweak called the shelf. You can swipe over and drag icons and make new panels and things like that. It works very much like Google's launcher. In order to get into some settings, you just do a long press and you'll see you can change your wallpapers there, add widgets there, or you can jump into settings here. So in settings, there's some things you may want to tweak. So that shelf, you can actually turn that off if you don't want that sitting off to the left. Swipe down, if you have that toggle on, allows you to swipe down anywhere and get into your notification shade, so you don't have to reach all the way up to the top. And then app shortcuts are Google's new little feature for 7.1.1 where you can long press on an icon and get into separate shortcuts. OnePlus also allows you to tweak icon packs. So they give you 3 different options: the OnePlus option, the round option, which adds roundness to all of your icons, or the square option, which makes all of them square, or you can even install third-party icon apps and it'll let you use those as well. So you can really do some customizations there in terms of the view. So I'll show you just a couple of those things. Obviously, this is the shelf. You can turn that off or on. If I do the swipe down, you can see it gets me into my notifications, and I can even do that way down here, and it still brings those down. If I long press on an app that has app shortcuts, there are app shortcuts there. So you've seen those before, but they are enabled here. If we jump over to the shelf, though, this stuff works like you might expect widgets to. So you long press on things and you can resize them or X them out if you don't want them there. This thing is scrollable, so you can add multiple things in here. If you want to add something new, you just hit this plus button and you can either do your recent contacts or you could do widgets, and then it shows you a list of all the available widgets. If you want to add something to it, you just you just tap the shortcut, it adds it to the bottom, lets you do some additional customizations here. And then I can be done, and then that's there, and I can grab this and actually drag this around and rearrange the order of these things. So they're widgets, and that's how they work. But you can also set little memos in here. It shows you the weather up there too. So shelf, all that stuff, you might as well take a look at that. Next thing, let's talk about gestures. So from the lock screen, you can actually set up some special gestures that get you into things. Not only that, there's some other just system ones too. So if we go into settings and gestures, in case you missed that, there's a flip to mute, which just allows you to, if a phone call's coming in, flip your phone over and that will mute that call. There's a 3-finger screenshot mode. So instead of doing power and volume down to take screenshots, 3-finger swipe down will take a screenshot for you. And we'll just let that wipe away. You can do double tap to wake from the lock screen, and this is where we get all those screen off gestures like music controls and drawing letters and things like that in order to launch stuff. So I'll show you some of that now. If we go ahead and lock this and double tap to wake, you guys understand how double tap to wake works. If I draw an O, that should launch my camera. and it does. And then the other one I have set up is just a V, which turns on the flashlight. And if I want to turn that back off, I just draw another V. So those are gestures, and you can set those up again through settings and gestures. The next thing I would suggest is making sure you take advantage of that fingerprint reader. It is one of the better in the business. And so you do that by going into settings, security, and fingerprint. I have 4 of them set up, but what you would initially do is set up a secure lock screen, like I have a pattern lock screen, and then it walks you through that before getting you into the fingerprint reader. And so to add a fingerprint reader, you would have to set in whatever your pattern or password is, and then you just start applying your finger, and you can see it reads it, and you should probably move it around a little bit so it reads it and gets every little ounce of it until it finishes up and knows your fingerprint. So you can use it to unlock, obviously. I now have 5 in there. I'm not sure what the max number is, but I typically do 4, especially on this one. I do both thumbs, so when I'm holding the phone, I can easily put a thumb there. If it's lying down on a desk, I use my index fingers to be able to do that. So definitely set those up. Again, it's that convenient security that allows you to get into your phone easy, but should you use it or lose your phone, it's definitely already locked down. Moving out of fingerprints though, let's jump back into settings. So there's an option here under status bar. So status bar, this is all of your icons that show up here, particularly this side over here with your clock and battery meter. So you can customize some of this stuff. You can change your battery style from a battery bar, which it is now, to a battery circle, which is what I prefer. You can show the percentage of your battery at all times. You can even show your network speed if you want. You can even change which icons do show up there. I almost always turn NFC off because I just don't need that to be showing at all times. But you can turn some of these things off and on, including your hotspot or your Bluetooth icon. All that stuff can go away, and I'm actually going to get rid of the Bluetooth icon because it's been bugging me. So that's in there, settings, status bar. Go ahead and tweak that stuff. The next thing I want to show you is, depending on your network, and if supported or not, if you go into settings, SIM and network settings, this is where you'll find your options for VO LTE, which is voice over LTE, and Wi-Fi calling. So if you want to use those and you're on a supported network, that's where you'll find those 2 settings there. Let's jump back here and go down into display. There's a whole bunch of stuff you're going to want to tweak in here. For one, I definitely like using night mode, and I do have a shortcut to night mode there, which turns everything this sort of orangish color and makes it easier on your eyes at night. But you can set that up to be a schedule, or you can just toggle it off and on manually, and you can adjust the strength of it as well. There's also a reading mode in here. If you're using reading apps, you can toggle on reading mode, and it really just turns everything into this black and white mode. I know it's tough to see here because I'm using, well, you can see it there on the home screen. It's basically just a black and white mode that makes it easier on your eyes when reading. So we'll back out, but this is also where you can adjust themes. If you want to use the default theme, a lighter theme, or a dark theme, which sort of changes the difference between this area up here along with just the settings panel, kind of tweaks some of those things and allows you to adjust colors depending on the one. You'll find your display size and font sizes in here, an ambient display, which lights up whenever notifications come in. You also have lifted display in here, which allows you, if your phone is sitting down here, to lift it and it'll wake it and show you if you have notifications. Your notification light setting is there as well. There's lots of stuff in there. Sound settings are another area I would highly recommend you adjust. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So not only do you have your volumes depending on what you want to adjust, you can set up ringtones and SMS ringtones and default ringtones, but you can also set up your vibration pattern. Like, these are things not everyone allows you to tweak. So you're not going to be able to hear these, but depending on how you want your vibrations to come in, that's something you can tweak. Your vibration intensity, which is definitely something I love to adjust here and there. But you can turn on your touch sounds, and there's even an audio tuner. So if you plug in headphones, you even connect to a Bluetooth audio source, you have equalizer settings. You can adjust your earphone type and all of that stuff, and that happens automatically when you connect to an audio source, including when you put in headphones. So sound settings, there's lots of stuff to play with in there. All right, so let's jump back, and we're still sticking in settings here. So in battery settings, there's not a ton of stuff in here. Obviously, it gives you information on your progress throughout the day and what's been using what. I would just say turn on battery saver, and I would say not just turn it on, but set up the percentage at where you want it to turn on, so that automatically, if your phone all of a sudden starts draining, you don't realize it, say at 15%, battery saver comes on, starts limiting some things in the background in order to reduce battery usage and keep your phone going probably when you most need it the most. So just go in there and set whatever percentage you want. There is a never at 5% or at 15%. So you do have a couple of options right there. All right, so the next thing I would say is, if we scroll down here to apps, there is a sort of hidden section up here in this little gear icon, and I would call this the default apps section. So in here, this is where you get to decide what some of your default apps are, or let's say you set up a default browser and didn't mean to, it was the wrong browser. This is where you'll be able to adjust those. So you can tap on browser, and you can see I've got which one set up as my default as Chrome Beta right now. If you have multiple home launchers installed, like say Nova Launcher, or you just want the OnePlus, you can tweak between those here. This is also where you would adjust your default text messaging app. So music app and all of that stuff is in there as well. So again, that's just your default stuff there. So let's jump back here and talk a little bit more security, actually, in security and fingerprint. So Smart Lock is one of my favorite Android features of all time. Smart Lock allows your phone it allows you to bypass your phone's secure lock system depending on a number of things. So it could be if it recognizes that it's on you and you've been carrying it around. Trusted places, so depending on your location, it'll allow you to bypass your secure lock screen without needing a pattern pin or your fingerprint. Trusted devices, so it's a good thing to set those up, say maybe in your car. When you connect to those, you no longer need your fingerprint or whatever. Trusted face, if you're into the whole facial recognition thing, or trusted voice, if it just hears you talking constantly and it knows your voice and learns it and trusts it, it will then allow you to bypass your lock screen. So Smart Lock, one of my favorite things. Obviously, you have to have some secure locks mechanisms set up there. But that's just one of those things to look into. And finally, we'll dive into some of the cooler, more lesser known features, I would say, on the OnePlus 5. And so that's in settings all the way down into this advanced section. So in here, you have your accessibility and printing, but you also have something like scheduled power on and off. You can actually schedule your phone to turn off and then back on again at certain times. And trust me, it does work. I tested it earlier. You can see my times are in there. I was just playing with it just a few minutes ago. You can actually tweak that and it will turn off, and you can cancel it out. It'll warn you and things like that. Here's pocket mode that says it prevents accidental screen touches or fingerprint operations when the phone is in your pocket. You may want to turn that on, especially if you use ambient display or something like that. There's a toggle in here that allows you to connect an on-the-go cable external storage device. There's also a gaming do not disturb mode. So when you're in a game, you can have it block notifications and lock the buttons out so you don't accidentally press those. And you can set up apps that you want to be able to use this gaming mode. So it's just kind of a specific feature to OnePlus 5 that they're doing. And then finally, you can actually go down and adjust the Bluetooth audio codec your phone uses. I'm not about to explain the difference between all those because I don't know. But if you do and you're an audio guy, you can toggle those right here. So those are just some of those advanced feature things. So anyways, that's just been 20 plus, 25 plus. I don't even know how many tips and tricks we just walked through, but hopefully that's a really good overview of the OnePlus 5, and that will help you become the OnePlus 5 master you always dreamed of. So anyways, we are Droid Life. We'll be back with our review shortly. Peace.